Presenting Julie Fernandez, a world-renowned HR thought leader with deep domain expertise in multi-process HR, global payroll, and HR technology. Honored as the HR superstar by HRO Today for 5 years, Julie specializes in providing strategic assessments, provider selection, and RFP through to contracting and governance. Please welcome Julie Fernandez to present on the topic, It Takes Two to Tango, making global functionality and cutting-edge technology dance together.
This is Julie Fernandez. So welcome to your next session for the day. I'm the HR practice lead at ISG, and I'm here to talk to you today about our It Takes Two to Tango session. So let's start today by introducing the two dance partners that are the topic of today's conversation.
Sharp. The title says it all. It takes two to tango. Today, I want to convince you that this can be a fun and memorable session. On Friday, we'll look more closely at our two dance partners, global functionality and cutting-edge technology. In a world where experience is king or queen, these two come together to create something beautifully coordinated, breathtaking even. But getting to that takes coaching, discipline, practice, and the right skills and abilities, so think about that as your tools of choice. More often, when we look at our own HR ecosystems, we see a different sort of taking your breath away. Here's a visual you won't soon forget. Well, here's your pre-conference challenge. While I get ready to share thoughts on getting from that to this, I want to invite each of you to think about what sort of dance your HR processes and technologies are doing together. Find me in LinkedIn and send me a short message. Maybe you pick a dance or a music genre, maybe an analogy, funny, serious. And if you're bored at lunch and want to browse awkward dance videos like I did, share one that reminds you of your HR ecosystem. I'll take that too. Instagram and TikTok video challenges of celebrities and politicians are everywhere, so let's get in on the fun. You might even involve your kids. It's a rare chance to make work sound cool. Make it memorable. I can't wait to be inspired by the snippets you send, and I'm sure I'll find some that will work their way into Friday's It Takes Two to Tango session. See you then.
Okay, so here we are, Friday's It Takes Two to Tango session. Let's start with HR technologies. Very few companies have nothing. So before we get to cutting edge, because that was indeed, part of our title, part of our challenge, let's discuss the basics. So here we have key systems that are stretching from hire to retire. And the technology partner in this duo is focused on techniques that sort through a whole lot of moves or tools to get the job done. Popular techniques today include those that best flatter the HR processes, right? So you'll see I've listed 3 of the big ones for you here today. We have the cloud platforms that have integrated HR business processes quite deeply. They're embedded right into the configurations, kind of like bringing a date to the dance. And as a result, the more components you use from a single integrated suite, the more overall kind of coordinated your dance moves are going to be. We also see a lot of focus on Omni-Channel Access, and that's kind of a mouthful, but what it really means is you find ways to meet employees and managers wherever they're at, right? So we're going beyond self-service mandates to bring in broader experiences and broader channels, whether it's mobile or portal or chat, and even more anticipatory types of nudges and ways to connect with the actions that we're trying to take and the things that we're trying to do across the hire to retire life cycle. And the other broad and foundational type of technology that most of us have on our radar is really workflow automation. That's been grabbing a lot of attention lately with tools like ServiceNow or PeopleDoc or NeoCase and plenty of others. addressing really the endpoints and some of the missing pieces of workflow in between. So things like forms and documents and interactions, even outside of HR, where you're, provisioning IDs or equipment when you're onboarding. Those types of things that might be kind of outside of the transactional processes that the HCM or other technologies are delivering. So, those things all are quite broad, but the session title did say cutting edge technology. So along with these staples, we see a whole universe of systems and tools and apps just itching to solve the troubled spot that ails you, right? I've listed some here. We're seeing a lot of tools that help us move from periodic engagement surveys that happen annually or some regularity, giving away to technologies that create or anticipate or measure experience. We're certainly seeing all sorts of recruiting, performance, and learning type technologies. The industry is really bursting right now with applications and automations and predictive dashboards and tools, and pretty much most anything that will help us sort through a majority virtual workforce, right? As we need to acknowledge that our employees and other people resources are virtual. We won't forget automation, where chatbots have been top of mind in HR for a while, but robotics process automation and AI also have a place and a following. And as you'll see from the list here, it really doesn't stop there. From workforce management to metrics to blockchain, wellness, wearables, and look toward the very bottom. Everything that we're finding in technology, that's coming out here and that folks are really interested and curious about has on-demand help. It has feedback or ratings or nudges and pop-ups, right? It has things that jump up and grab you, essentially. So that's our first partner to the dance. Enough with technology. Let's move along to global functionality. And so global functionality you would think would be a little bit simpler in the dance partner card, right? But in fact, that's not at all the case. I mean, right off the bat, the first thing we see is global. And so to me, that's kind of like the kids in the back of the car that are, I know a song. No, I know 10 songs, right? How many countries do you have? Let's just multiply the functionality, by that factor. And that wasn't so long ago in the past that each country had its own processes. And our path to a single system has kind of forced us to start looking at how much can we find in common, and how do we address the times 10 in our organizations. When we start at the top looking at global processes, we see companies that are seeking harmonization. They're looking at the endpoints where local inputs and outputs are needed. And in the interest of experience, they're also following one or more processes from end to end to see how they can make it more intuitive and more easy. And that's the process side of the house. The service delivery in HR is almost always a mix of internal HR resources and business unit managers supported in some way by third-party providers and/or technologies. The greater the handoffs and coordination among these parties, the better the experience, right? That's kind of how you think about putting that together and making that flow. Focus on improving your service delivery often plays with the balance of retained and outsourced support, but a bigger part of the value can be unlocked if you look at the coordination between and among your HR staff. So clarifying and refining HR roles to ensure what's done by shared services versus your various COEs or your HR business partners is a lot harder than it sounds. These decisions affect what people do, and they don't always match what they like to do or what they want to do or what they've always done. And so changes in these parts of your service delivery model and the processes and the handling of your processes can impact the very structure and size of your HR organization. If you feel like you've recently gone through all of these things, optimization and experience mandates are going to call us to revisit those things. So I've called out two lenses that apply, as they tend to be the ones with the biggest impact. First, I guarantee you'll find gaps and inefficiencies with a good look at the data you keep. Who owns it, how it moves about from place to place, how you've integrated it, or where it ends up and what you can report on. And second of all, even if you think you've ironed out all of your HR roles recently, you'll probably find you're revisiting them again, at least enough to answer questions from executives about what agile HR could mean for you. So there's our two dance partners. Our session topic was really focused on how to get these two things working together. And for the most part, our funny little couple here has gotten on the same page, and now they look like they've both shown up to the same dance. They even might be hearing the same music. And that's probably a lot like what each of our HR ecosystems look like, not too shabby. But don't forget that this session challenged us not to boogie woogie or hip hop or line dance our way through hire to retire, but to tango, which looks a lot more like this. Hard sometimes to tell where technology ends and the process begins in this visual, and vice versa. They're so closely coordinated as to be seamless, each anticipating the other, rehearsed and refined. You get it, right? But is that what we see when we turn around and look at our own ecosystems? You heard my challenge before we started the session. And so I wanted to share just a little bit about some of the things that I heard from my video challenge about what dance or music your own HR environment is doing. And I'd love it if you share now in the conference chat with me, if you're following along, and with each other. Any other words or items that kind of reflect what you think your HR ecosystem would look or sound like, because I've had a lot of fun with the things that you've shared with me. Let me get the ball rolling, and I'll tell you the top 4 that I heard so far. First of all, outdated. That's the top response that I've heard from folks responding to that challenge. Definitely not your grandmother's HR, and I kind of hope that's not your grandmother either. The second thing that I heard quite frequently was disjointed. So maybe this looks good individually, but each of these guys is doing their own thing. They stand alone, unique by country, no integration. That I think reflects a lot of folks' reality. I also heard, I'll just call this an assortment, right? Some odd combination of things acquired along the way, or maybe somebody's pet project that once was a great idea, but now it's like, meh, not so much. And the fourth one that I brought to share with you today is crowded, loud and busy, like so much noise that it's hard to tell what matters, what's happening that matters, the thing that should receive the most attention. There's just a lot going on. So thanks everybody for sharing. I will tell you, late last night I received a short video of cows doing some kind of awkward dance in the fields, and I really wish I could share that and a lot of other inspirations with you, but I'll find a way. So please keep them coming and keep sharing. Let's move forward, because we do want to move off of the challenge fun and into some tangible points for bringing our two dance partners together. Every HR organization out there, from the simplest to the most mature, has something to build upon. What comes naturally to you, maybe not so much to me, right? And the things that you choose to focus on and develop, maybe they're not the same as mine. But some of the elements that we build upon are universal. Shared culture and objectives is the one I chose to put at the top. You have to agree on where you want to be and what dance you want to do, right? And a lot of that is tied up with your culture and your objectives as an organization, an HR organization and a broader organization. A roadmap to the future is next. It's a fundamental part of imagining your future. And while we're speaking about it, if HR brings processes and IT brings technology, can the roadmap be owned by just one of them? I don't think so. I have data quality and ownership next. It's like good posture or good hygiene. You'll hear the point of good data stewardship come up a few times today, but there's a good reason. We don't have it nailed, and there's lots of room for improvement there. Next, you'll see established process discipline and governance appearing. Documenting, reviewing, reiterating, these behaviors become embedded in your DNA and in every process that you touch. The roles in your organization have to align to the governance model to support decision-making, approvals, escalations, priorities, and changes, and today at a much faster and more fluid pace than ever before. All right, let's look at choosing balance. Many of us are alphas and we dive headfirst into everything that we do. We lead with passion and purpose. We thrive on evidence that we're reaching our goals and we're getting things done and we're making things better. So I'm here to tell you today that even great leaders and thinkers get enamored with a vacuum. Usually that vacuum is a technology or a tool. You've seen it, right? The leader that is certain everything can be solved by X. Put in your own system name there. Maybe it's your HCM, maybe it's ServiceNow or your own flavor of workflow, portal, case, or document management program. At the beginning of the year, just a story, I was speaking with an HRIT leader for a German headquartered firm who was describing their existing service delivery model. Now, service delivery model that includes the technology and the processes, right? Both things. Their efficiency was awesome, according to him, but they wanted to interject much more experience, much more of the feel, the types of experience that's embedded today in many of our in many of our newer tools. It just kind of comes with the deal, right? And it was all a non-starter for him because of how deeply vested he was as the creator and longtime champion of this current day efficient tool. It was efficient as it was built, yes, but truly a Frankenstein to evolve. The bottom picture reminds me a bit of organizations that I see that get enamored with the tool or methodology and then go to great gyrations to use it for everything. I'll pick on ServiceNow for a moment because they're a giant and they're a very successful product for a whole lot of reasons. But if your organization has built up entire teams whose focus is building these workflows, or using this, whatever your tool is, that is this star of the show, right? They will find many ways to build pretty much anything that you could ask for. It's not wrong. It's not inherently evil, right? But it does lead to quite a solo show. And the point is, you may not be doing your best choreography when you step back and look at it with fresh eyes, as your employees do. Unwilling to untangle a pet system or allowing our comfort with great tools, to make it the center of everything, it has risks, just like a single person dependency does. And the same for those clinging to a proven approach or methodology so much that you don't even consider the art of the possible. From now forward, we'll all be required to see with bigger eyes the whole stage. Have to admit the dance analogy was fun, but what does that mean when you're dealing with HR technology and processes and not tutus and tights? Not only do we need to solidify and refine our techniques and dance steps, so we got to optimize configurations or streamline process steps or improve dashboards, but we also need to spend time choreographing our presentation. The way that we serve our employees and managers should flow and create a certain experience. And to think and design with this in mind, is part of our challenge now. Personas give us different lenses used, and we can evaluate the experience we create, trying it out, modifying it to fit the audience, putting the pieces together and seeing how it works as a whole, those sorts of things. And now more than ever, building our own skills and delivery capabilities has to move beyond the dancers, HR and IT, and focus on the audience of employees and managers, where job aids, training, change networks and communications, change management, those things serve as a guide to participation. Let's shift then to the HR tech COE and the idea that as organizations evolve to meet their changing needs and have their core HR platforms, the establishment of an HR tech COE can benefit the organization. I've listed a few items for you here today. It establishes the right decision makers for technology priorities and the roadmap. It aligns to shift with it aligns to the fact that the roles change in the organization and HR steps up more to ownership for the rules and the system configuration, what happens with the technologies. It enforces the data privacy and compliance standards, right? And it also creates clear and effective governance across the different partners in order to achieve the right employee experience. So at ISG, we have some great examples of what this looks like, what the build versus buy options are, what is the team size and where does it fit in the organization, and more. If you're looking for these sorts of insights specifically around the HR Tech COE or really anything else, just reach out to me after the session or in the coming weeks. I'm gonna probably run a little bit shy on time here, but more and more clients come to me with something built. They're up and running and they're measuring, and like, wow, we wanted to do that a little while ago, but what exactly are we measuring becomes the issue, right? With the help of our platforms and our providers you have in place today, you should at least be able to handle basic HR counts and volumes, headcount, transaction volumes, and then focus on general performance monitoring. That's the next big category, especially for HR ops or shared services. And here's where people most often ask, am I measuring the right things? My metrics are telling me something, but is it good or bad? What should I do? Am I sharing the right metrics at all levels? These are all indications of opportunities that can be had. And then we move into some of the more advanced analytics tools that are bound today, particularly in the areas related to talent, attracting, hiring, onboarding, developing, retaining. All of those are important across all positions, no longer just the thin layer of global leadership. I'll keep us moving as our session ends. And I know I haven't left much time for Q&A, but to be honest, it was a little bit buggy in my last session. So our time today was short, and I do want to encourage each of you to shine and refine in your own HR and payroll organizations. Whether your technology and processes dance in a flashy, bleeding edge digital moves kind of way, or they're training to be that timeless tango. We're living a disruption today that has a flip side that is really very bright. I mean, it's actually like a blaze, right? The barriers to innovation are lower than they've ever been. Appetite to design and execute things that'll fit in an unknown future is super high. And as our ISG mantra says, pretty loud and clear, imagine your future is now.